Black Magic Woman podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on. We also acknowledge traditional owners of the land where you, the listener or viewer, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to our elders past and present and acknowledge that this always was Aboriginal land and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to the Black Magic Woman podcast with Narelda Jacobs.
Welcome back to another episode of the Black Magic Woman podcast. I am here on the beautiful lands of the Gadigal peoples in Sydney, which is quite special to me. And I've shared this often on the podcast whenever I'm recording here in Sydney, that there's this kind of long history where my family have been here in Redfern, which is Gadigal country, since the 1840s. So whenever I'm here, I feel like I'm home, even though I, live with my family on Cubby country up in Queensland. I still don't identify as a Queenslander. People should know that. So today I am joined here on the couch here at Darling Harbour with a beautiful sister, Narelda Jacobs. So can I just say, or even ask, if you don't mind, introducing yourself, just to share with our listeners and also our viewers on YouTube. Tell us a bit about yourself.
All right.
I actually just was online with Bank West Mob delivering training. And I said, you're not going to believe who I've got coming up on my podcast. I said, show of hands, who has heard of Narelda Jacobs? And all of these hands went up.
Oh, well, it's a West Australian company.
There you go.
It's a Bank West.
Bank West. So for people that don't know you, don't know your story, do you want to share it with us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Mandinara. I've been waiting for my call up for this podcast.
Your diary and my diary.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm so happy that this has happened. I'm from Boorloo, Perth, born and bred West Australian. My dad is Whadjuk Noongar. He sadly passed away 5 years ago. My mum is British. She's Northern Irish. And she came out with her parents from Northern Ireland when she was about 8 or 9. Around the same time, my dad was stolen from his family and placed in a mission, Magumba Mission. They met as young adults, fell in love. My mum was starting a Noongar church, had started a Noongar church actually. So she was kind of carrying on. Her parents were missionaries. They came out here because they were missionaries.
So she was exposed to our mob.
Yes.
At a younger age.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Yes, it is interesting.
How they view us and their interactions with us.
Yes.
Wow.
She's a fiercely determined person. She has very strong convictions about justice and I was going to say equality, but not all the way equality, which we might get to a bit later. Racial equality.
A black man.
Racial equality,
in those early days and what they would have endured, right?
Yeah. So then they fell in love. My mum was a pastor of a church. My dad became a Christian, went to the church. Their love blossomed. Yeah, fell in love with the pastor. They get married, have 5 children. I'm the youngest of 5 girls, so there's all daughters.
As well.
No brothers.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah. Okay. So being the baby, I don't know where do you sit?
I'm in the middle. Well, Yarika always says she's in the middle because there's 5 older than me and 3 younger, so she's technically the middle. But I still, I feel like I was the middle child because I was the one that kind of no one knew where I was. The oldest is always doing everything. The youngest is always getting away with everything. The middle child's nowhere to be seen.
Oh.
So it's easy to get up to mischief.
Yeah, right. So it's true what they say about the middle child. the baby. And was the baby in your family showered with love?
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Okay.
I've been surrounded
and you'll
by
always
love.
be the baby, right?
Yes, yeah. And I had a very loving upbringing. Everyone was always looking after me. Lots of hugs and lots of physical affection and kisses on my cheeks and there was always someone being loving towards me. It was a really beautiful way to grow up actually. So I have a lot of love to give. Maybe as a result, I don't know. And so I have quite a positive outlook on life actually.
So you grew up in like basically a black household, right? And when I talk about black households, because not everybody that's Aboriginal has had that experience. to grow up in a black household.
Yeah.
And that we talk about black love and black joy, but that love I remember as a kid as well, but also thinking about babies, that you never let a baby cry. You're always going, who's got that baby? Don't let the baby cry. Pick the baby up. So that kind of, looking after, loving, even when you're little, you got a baby on your hip.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You would have been on the hip with 4 big sisters.
Always, always. And we, my dad was involved in Aboriginal politics, and so he would go away to Canberra quite a lot, and they were very good with money, my parents. So they bought a house in suburban Perth, which I thought was a really nice part of town, but it was just kind of on the outer suburbs. Like when I go past there now, I'm like, I thought this was amazing,
kid, everything.
Yeah, but it was very it was quite a multicultural area there, but it was very white. It was a very white suburb, and we had a shield with a spear for our letterbox. So when you say black household, like that was what people were greeted with to come to our home. It was great. We were so proud.
But, even thinking back now, like, today, me living on the sunny coast, I won't even put an Aboriginal flag sticker on my car. Having, back in the day in Perth, having that letterbox, living in a white neighbourhood.
Yeah.
Did you experience much kind of, racism being in a blended, not a blended family? What do you say? Where you've got a white mum and a black dad.
Well, we
mixed race, a mixed.
I think I was protected from it because I don't have a lot of memories of things like that happening.
Which is good.
I mean, I was called names at primary school because it was a white primary school. We were the only black fellas in the school. There was one other Aboriginal girl in the school, actually, in my year, and we were the only black fellas in the whole school.
Yeah.
And so there were incidents, but we were fiercely proud of our Aboriginality. My dad, I would, how you tell news at school? At primary school, that was like my favourite thing to do, is tell news. And once a year, I would bring my dad in as the news, as like, this is my dad. He is Noongar.
Yeah.
And
he can cultural awareness.
And he can play the didgeridoo.
Yeah.
And this is a banksia flower. And this is a boomerang.
Pride.
So he would just come, and every year, but
he was your show and tell.
He was my show and tell. But the thing that makes me laugh now is that, during primary school, you do each year with the same kids. so
they got it again and again and again.
And again and again. Throughout from year 1 to year 7.
And he always turned up.
Always turned up. Yeah.
Wow.
He was great. And even now with my own daughter going through primary school, he would also turn up for her, which is just such a beautiful thing that Jade has those memories of Pop being at her school assembly, doing the welcomes, painting the children's faces. Like it's a really beautiful thing, like to have seen that through the eyes of a mother, that there's that my dad was able to do it for his grandchild and his grandchildren. That's gorgeous.
I was going to say, in terms of like with schooling, did you finish year 12? Because I've got 8 sisters, and my older sister Lena finished high school, and then there's 4 that didn't. Then there's me, and then the 3 under. Binawee didn't, but Jada and Alkia did. So I remember my dad saying to me, because my mum and dad had 5 daughters together, and he said, if you finish year 12, I'll take you anywhere in the world.
Oh.
It's the only reason why I graduated.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to Fiji.
That wasn't that far away.
And I married a Fijian.
Oh, true.
And I got to Fiji.
That's
and
awesome.
I could have went to Spain. I could have went to Italy.
So relieved.
I could have went to anywhere. I could have went to New York, which I still haven't been to. But no, I was like, Fiji, all the photos of the islands and paradise. And I'm like, that's where I want to go. And it was the first and only holiday with my dad. 8 sisters.
Wow.
All growing up, in a 3-bedroom house. So, yeah, we were quite lucky. So I finished high school because Dad said, I'll take you anywhere around the world. So I was wondering, did you end up finishing high school?
I did finish high school. Yes,
Yeah.
that was instilled in us to finish school and then to go to university. It was there were the steps. You know, you did the steps. You went to school. You went to university or some kind of tertiary education.
Of course, higher ed.
Yeah, some kind of higher ed. And then my parents were, I did say that they were good with money, so they were property buyers, so they saw the value in buying land and buying their house and not renting it and all those sorts of things. So it was like, finish school, go to tertiary, get a job and buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the rest is,
whatever you make of it.
Yeah.
So did you know, because most people will know your face from Channel 10, being on TV.
Yeah.
And for black fellas, we would say that Narelda was one of the first black faces that we get to see on mainstream news. Like, I can turn the TV on in the morning and there's a black woman looking at me and usually dressed in Aboriginal.
Yeah, I try to.
Yes.
Well, I am now the Gali.
Yes. So there's the fact that you represent, on TV as a black woman, but also with all of the, I've got to do better, right? Mimi and Jinder.
Oh, yeah, great.
And you literally,
look.
when I saw that, I knew on TV.
Mara's like a newsreader's staple, blackfella newsreader's staple,
Yes.
or TV presenter. Interesting you say that, Mandanara, because I got my first job at Channel 10 in the year 2000 in Perth. Right?
Yeah.
And so I moved to Sydney in 2020 and I'd already had this huge career as being a news anchor, a journo on the road, a reporter, and then reading the Perth news for 12 years before I even moved to Sydney. And so I moved to Sydney and I felt like I had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So it's only been in the last 3 years that that I've been able to go, hey, everyone, here I am. I've got quite a bit of experience.
This is 20 years.
Yes. Yeah.
In the media industry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but only the last 3 on a national level.
Of course.
Yeah, on a national scale. And also, even though I have been with Channel 10 for 23 years.
Which I didn't know that.
A lot of people recognise me from NITV.
Yes, of course.
From
so
the
you're
point.
on the point.
Yeah.
Yes, with Brother Boy.
John Paul.
JP. I always call him JP, so everyone knows John Paul Janky.
Yeah.
On the point. So most people recognise you from the point.
From the point.
Wow.
Oh, it's fantastic. And especially this year, a lot of people are tuning into the referendum road trip.
Yes. How is that?
It's been really good. As JP has done some calculations, we've done over 36,000 kilometres.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How much you're travelling?
Yeah, recording episodes in every state and territory we have this year. We've spoken to blackfellas from, grassroots community members who are rolling out programs to journos, to senators, to company bosses, to tour operators, execs at the AFL, Tanya Hosh, Sally Scales, artists. Like there's so many people, people involved in cultural heritage, people involved in justice, in youth, all manner of things. We've spoken to them this year while we've been trying to cover the referendum and allowing people to tell their stories and share their issues.
I was going to say, how important is it for us to have our own media to tell our stories and to go to our communities where people recognise your face? So then they're more likely to actually engage, want to be on camera. How's it like? Tell me, can you share with us some of the people that you've met in terms of some of the stories that you've heard? Is there anyone? I'm sure that they've all,
Oh, I've learned so much. When we were in Rockhampton, Uncle Mick Gooder was there, and
Uncle Mick Gooder is a Gungaloo man from the Dawson River, which is the river that my dad used to take us back to.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Uncle Mick. He was my first ever guest.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure. On the Black Magic Woman.
Oh, awesome. Uncle Mick, that was a really great conversation. We talked about native title in that place and a recent court decision. We talked about intergenerational trauma being a medical condition, like playing out medically.
Yeah.
And he got really choked up in that episode. And, when you see our elders become emotionally when they talk about mob and outcomes for mob, it's a really, you know that we're really striking a nerve here, and this is something that everyone needs to hear. And the same thing when we went to Tandania, Adelaide, Uncle Charlie Jackson also became very emotional, talking about children, talking about our future. And so we're having these really deeply personal conversations. But the best thing about NITV is that they do the community engagement exceptionally well. Before we've even recorded, they've been there for days, meeting with the elders and making sure that all the protocols have been observed and we have the permission to be there before we even start rolling.
And that's the most important thing, right? Is, you don't just turn up. Yeah. I think this is really good, especially for non-Indigenous Australians. You could work in an organisation that has a reconciliation action plan, and you've got community engagement as part of one of your deliverables. And a lot of people always say to me, because I deliver training, how do we know who the community are? How do we know who the elders are? How do we know who are the rightful people, traditional owners, who are authority? Who's the boss for this country?
Yep.
Where do we go?
That is so important. That's the starting point.
That's the starting
That's
point.
where you start.
Yes. And so all this groundwork is done before you and JP just turn up with a camera crew and start filming.
Yes, and the right people need to be contributors. And if there's not space on the panel, they need to contribute in some way. And you need to be able to have the time. You know what that's like. You know what that's like with Blackfellas, eh?
Yes.
You need to have the time to sit down and yarn. The day.
Don't just think you're turning up for your 2 hours to get your 20-minute episode, right?
Brisbane. Blak Card have a brand new workshop offering for you. A 2-hour acknowledgement to country and half-day cultural capability program facilitated by Mundanara Bales right here in Brisbane. This new public face-to-face split program is designed to build knowledge and provide confidence in delivering a respectful and culturally appropriate acknowledgement of country and building cultural capability. These programs will take place at 480 Queen Street, Brisbane, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m, 24th of October. Limited seats available. To book now, head to www.theblackcard.com.au.
So I'm going to say this to everyone. I feel like you and I have known each other for years. Because I've been following you
and
on
I've
Instagram.
been following you, yeah.
And then everyone, we just message each other every now and again and just check in and say hello. But your beautiful videos with Karina, the trackies, all right. So I literally love a Nike trackie. Who doesn't like a tracksuit pants, right? I even have TNs, and my kids, right, don't like being seen in public with me when I've got my TNs on. Anyhow, you and Karina with your trackies doing your little dance on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish my husband will come on and have some fun with me, but he won't. He does not want to be seen.
You need a willing participant.
I need a willing.
It's hard to make the magic when it's just you.
So how do you? Is Karina a willing participant?
Yes.
Loves it.
Yes,
doesn't mind
the tracksuit
being
video. That was just last night.
Public figure now. Everyone knows Karina because she's always on Instagram with Narelda.
Oh, look, the cold weather was back. And so this was our last chance to make the most of our tracksuits. So we're like, come on, let's just be dags. Let's just be idiots on the street.
But it's one way where people can start to see you and connect with you, but just see you as a normal person.
Well, it's because I'm got my TV makeup on now because, this, but also I do have something else tonight, which I'll be on stage and presenting. So I wanted to keep my makeup on, but I have makeup every day for work, for TV. But as soon as I don't need it, I take it off straight away because that's not who I am. And so I want people to see who I really am. There's a work persona, but also then there's the silly me at home. And I would like to think that I am the same person in that range. I'm the same person, but just one has makeup and one doesn't. So I can still be serious
the
and things.
Professional side, corporate professional.
Yeah, and like if I can dance at the news desk and be silly at the news desk, I would. But we're dealing with serious issues, so I can't. But when it's happy and when it's not so serious, I get quite loose.
I love it. And I just want to. Before I leave you, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but there's a lot of our mob, and they're now they're journalists, they're doctors, they're lawyers. We've got so many graduates across all different disciplines in university. But for you as a, Aboriginal woman in media, in mainstream media, can you share with, some of our mob that may be starting a career in media or in journalism, just is there some advice, is there any tips that you would give them, especially knowing that they're going to be in a space where they may be the only Aboriginal person or person of colour even, right?
You have to be really passionate for telling stories, for allowing other people to tell their stories. When you're starting out in journalism, there is no ego in journalism because you're telling other people's stories. You are the vehicle. Yeah. And so when I was starting out, I was told it's not about you. It's not about you. And even when I was reading the news, I was told you're one of many. And I think it was to not create a monster, someone with a big ego who thought that the success of things was all down to them. You're one of a team.
Yeah.
So there's an element of that rings true, but also I love to see people's personalities come through in their stories, and I love to see their lens applied to the stories, because for so long stories have been told by a type of person, and they're not us.
Yeah.
They're so far from who we are, and we still see it reflected in the news that's covered now. When incidents of crime happen, it's seen through a certain lens, or when we're talking about children in custody, it's seen through a certain lens. When we see people who are tasered, why would we care about someone who's tasered and then not somebody else who's tasered? So the lenses are applied whether we like it or not. So we should be, blackfellas, as journos, we need to start telling the stories, to be in there and tell the stories and apply our lens to the story.
That's so important for our mob to take up these spaces as journalists as well, to be able to communicate from a black lens or from our perspective, especially when it's part of our lived experience.
Totally, because lived experience trumps everything else. Everything else. Lived experience. I mean, Canberra, Parliament House would be a different place if everybody was there based on their lived experience, and who have that lived experience to be able to help the rest of the country in creating the policy that can help the rest of the country. Lived experience. It trumps everything else. I can't say it any other way. So when you apply your lived experience to everything, then it's always going to be from a very authentic place.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to get the best of the best when someone can apply that.
Yeah, because that's what people are looking for. That's what the Voice to Parliament is all about. It's about what is your lived experience like, and how can we improve outcomes for everyone, for all of us, all mob.
I don't know if you're getting a lot when you just said in terms of the Voice to Parliament. Are you finding any online, even with your own kind of socials, are you finding a lot of negativity? And if you are, I would love for you to share. How are you looking after yourself?
I get my fair share of trolling, but I'm in a very unique position because I am a presenter on TV and I have to be impartial and I have to ask the questions. So for that reason, I can't put forward my position. I can't take a stance on the Voice to Parliament. I'm not telling people to vote yes or to vote no. Therefore, no one is actually coming after me. It's this really...
Isn't it interesting?
It's a really bizarre thing.
Position, that people will come after you.
They're still coming after me because as much as I try to be impartial...
you still cop it.
You still cop it. Yeah, you still cop it. So... I'm in quite a unique position where I have a platform to be able to share information and ask the questions that need to be asked, and
for people to then make an informed decision
and fact check on the run. Which is really important, to be able to fact check people when they've got it wrong.
Of course. Well, I want to end with this, especially what's going on in this country right now, which we do know that the referendum is coming up. What's some kind of advice that you'd give to especially our mob in terms of looking after themselves? I know that I see Nikita Ridgway on LinkedIn recently just, promoting 1-3 yarn That
Yes.
the high rates of online trolls and what would you say to some of our mob that are listening or watching this yarn?
You will be very pleased to know that your voice and Stan's voice came at a very important time for me. So I was on a plane, and it was actually months after you had your yarn with Stan dropped on this podcast, and I was on a plane, and I really needed to hear everything that you had to say. So and the thing that cut through the most and gave me most comfort was the question that you asked to Stan, and he said, "It is hard. It is hard at the moment." And hearing that validation affirmed how I was feeling, and that it was okay to feel like what I was going through was a struggle, because, and he was speaking directly to First Nations journos. I don't know, who were you thinking of when you asked him that question, what's your advice to other First Nations journos in newsrooms? And they might be the only one. And he said, just know that it is hard. And I was like, how does he know? How do you know? I was looking around that plane going, oh my goodness, they're talking to me. Yeah. That's what it felt like. You have to find those moments. Listen to podcasts. There's so many podcasts out there that could be a comfort. There's information out there. Last night, Karina told me, don't look at Twitter before you go to sleep, because I was looking at Twitter, or X. I was looking, and she was like, put it down. Put the phone down. So that cleared my head.
I don't have Facebook or my personal Instagram or Twitter on my phone. So obviously I don't have it on my phone.
Oh, wow.
So my advice to look after my own, mental health and to be present with my kids and not let all of this outside noise consume me. I get asked about the voice every minute of the day. I deliver training, cultural capability training, where every question is, what's my stance? And I always say the same as you.
Like, what Mundanara can do in an hour will change an organisation's trajectory. Let me just say that. I've seen you in action, Mundanara. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Narelda's on the First Nations Advisory
for Football Australia.
And we got to watch a game, the Matildas, which was amazing. And then I saw you at the book festival down here. Tila Reid and Stan Grant spoke, which was unbelievable. And then got to hang out at the pub down here and just have a feed.
Yeah.
So I've
There's
been
all
lucky.
of those moments. And something that Stan says a lot is that when he needs it the most, the ancestors will put someone in front of him.
Yes.
Like you, or like Tila walking down the beach, because they both
Well, I
live
had
around
dinner with Tila last night.
Oh, wow.
First time.
Oh, I saw Tila yesterday too.
So she reached out to me and said, can we have a yarn? I'm like, oh my God.
And
I would love to have a yarn with you.
And then the other day, like Karina and I are at Spice Alley, like a food area, and it was a weird time of the day. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Amy Tunig was there with Amy's husband Luke, and I hadn't seen them for ages, so we sit together and eat and have a great yarn, and we catch up. They are random people that you bump into that the ancestors know that you need to see them in that moment, so so you have to be open to seeing those things. Like when that happens, you could easily walk past the person.
Say hi, gotta go.
Yeah, but it's happened for a reason. Yeah. Just let it breathe.
I know. I remember when I ran into you at the pub, because I thought I was going to see you at the book thing, and I ended up giving your T-shirt to someone, your Black Magic Woman T-shirt. And I said to them, by the way, this was for Narelda Jacobs. And like, oh my God, you're giving it to me. And I was like, yes, it's all good. I'll see Narelda again and I'll hook her up. And they could not believe that they got your T-shirt. So remind me, I'm going to send you a tea so you can represent.
Okay.
But I just want to say, finally, we're able to jump on here and have this yarn. If there's anything that you want to share with anyone, it doesn't have to be about the referendum, it could be about the work that you're doing. Or is there anything in the pipeline? Is there anything that you want to share with us that you haven't? Can they hear it here?
No. Well,
Black Magic Woman?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's always things
Is there
going.
a wedding?
I mean, what? You'll be the first to know. Actually, Instagram will be the first to know. No, there's so much going on, but I think it's just really important, moving from Perth to Sydney was quite a big move, going into the unknown, leaving an amazing job as a newsreader for a capital city, Perth, and then moving into the unknown. Was huge, but it was a willingness to kind of step outside your comfort zone. And then from that, then it was just saying yes to things and meeting people and making friends with you and locking Tila down and making friends with Tila. You know, that's hard. She's a tough nut to crack, mind you.
I know.
Tila, yeah.
So she reached out to me and I told her last time, she's like, thank you for being generous with your time. I'm like, Tila, I can believe you text me. I'm like, but thank you for being generous with your time.
Yeah, but it's just saying yes to things and being open to things. If you're open to things, then new experiences will happen, and then that experience will lead to the next opportunity, and then a bigger thing, and then before you know it, you have this incredible network of people, of movers and shakers, people who are changing the world, you know, and then you are in the right place to be able to use your influence to be able to influence everybody around you. You know, it's
that's
just
powerful.
It's
when we
really
can come
powerful,
together.
but it starts with a single step. I mean, I know how cliched that is, but it does start with a single step, and we all have the confidence on the inside to change the world. We just need to take that step and to say yes and be open to things, and make connections with people like you who you can mentor.
Of course,
you know,
and I think especially for us as Black women. That, you know, there's not a lot of young people, you know, in our communities that have those role models that they can look up to. You know, some are living in remote communities, some are still, you know, some are here in Redfern.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of my nephews and nieces like to see their mum and dads go to work or studying. Like, that's a big deal. But for a lot of non-Aboriginal families, it's normal. And so just to be that kind of person that they look up to,
and find someone who has faith in you, because we don't always have faith in ourselves, and we don't often step up to opportunities. We have to be pushed, and, and I was one of those people who had to be pushed into opportunities because of people along the way who've had faith in me. So
and look where you are now.
Oh, thank you.
Killing it.
Thank you.
And I tell you now, especially for my daughter Tiger Lily and my big girl, there's Kasaya as well, but for Tiger Lily, to see you on the news living in a very white neighbourhood, you know, you can't be what you can't see. And she wants to be on TV, right? Yay. She's someone that is really proud of her culture, and she's like you. She wants me to go and tell the class and tell the kids about being a Murray.
Are you the show and tell?
I'm the show and tell as well. And I've done it with all of my kids. But yeah, you brought back some memories that I know, and I probably didn't think at the time, meant a lot to my kids till you started talking about it. I started thinking about my kids, and I spent 4 days with them, so I'm not getting emotional. I spent 4 days with them here in Sydney. But I just want to say, you know, for everything that you do and for how you are, what you get is what you see, and you are real. And for some of us might think that we need to be one person in the Western world or white collar world, and then we need to be our true selves in our communities. We don't have to.
No.
We're walking in these two worlds, but we can still be who we are in both of those spaces.
Totally.
I think that's what I want my kids to grow up.
Yeah.
I want them to realise that they don't need to change who they are because they're the only Black kids in their school, and they don't need to be anything but themselves. But that's hard, right? It's very hard.
And we can't afford to, because our entire community rely on that. We depend on that. Otherwise, we would just be the status quo if we fit in, and if we compromised ourselves too much and we compromise our culture. We can't compromise.
No,
we can be in the rooms to change it. That for some people is a compromise, but that's where it ends.
Yeah. Look, I just want to keep you here all day, but I know you got somewhere else to go. I just want to say thank you for all of the videos, the laughs. Keep sharing them, but yeah, I can't wait to catch up again and just have a yarn and have a feed with you here in Sydney. So thanks for stopping in here.
Am I now a Black Magic woman?
You are a Black Magic woman certified. But thank you for being you, and I know that there's a lot of us that look up to you. So
thank you for this
you're
podcast.
An absolute inspiration, my sister.
Mandanara, thank you, and the same to you. This podcast brings a lot of comfort to a lot of people.
Thank you. I literally could not believe they finally got Narelda on this podcast, and not virtually, were in the same place at the same time and was able to make it happen. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Until next time, bye for now. If you'd like any more info on today's guest, please visit our show notes in the episode description. A big shout out to all you Deadly Mob and allies who continue to listen, watch and support our podcast. Your feedback means the world. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify, or even head to our socials and YouTube channel and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. The Black Magic Woman podcast is produced by Clint Curtis.